The Panthers put on a clinic in Nashville, and the youngsters on the team were some of the big contributors.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Wednesday, February 26th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at @L_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Subscribe. And if you are on the YouTube, make sure to press that like button down below. So, Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. And for the Florida Panthers, a 4-1 win over the Nashville Predators, where it was a game that the Panthers once again put on a clinic and played to their identity, missing two forwards in this one. Matthew Tkachuk, we still don't know the status of his injury as far as the timeline, and Eetu Luostarinen out of the lineup due to the birth of his child, and two key contributors with Justin Sourdif and Mackie Samoskevich getting goals on this one. Sam Bennett getting a Gordie Howe hat trick in this one to win 4-1. The Predators cut it to a 2-1 deficit in the third period, but the Panthers broke away with the game. And here to recap all with this game, it is a Wednesday, which means it's Winans Wednesday. Jacob Winans is back. And Jacob, that was a really fun one for the Panthers as they swept the season series against the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, that was a fun game. That game had a little bit of everything, and most importantly, in my opinion, was that game had the Panthers' identity kind of written all over it. It was the kind of game that you like to see them play. There was physicality, there was hard forechecking, there was suffocating defense, shot blocking, defensive responsibility, good penalty kill, a power play goal, and a lot of the rough stuff too. They are be turning up the playoff intensity this time of year as we expected them to, and I was impressed. And what's most encouraging to me in a win like that is the young guys stepping up and filling their roles and contributing on the score sheet in this one too, which is important to have that depth down the lineup. And as you get closer to the trade deadline, a team like the Panthers they're in a position where they can be buyers. They're expected to be buyers. You want to add for the playoff run, but there are guys who are at the bottom of the lineup or in the minors or depth players who want to make their case that maybe I should get a look, and I'm ready to play big games down the stretch. You don't need to go get someone to fill my role when I'm right here. So it's good internal competition, and I think guys are making their case right now.
Yeah, competition brings the best out of people when it comes to that. And it's mostly a conversation when we talk about training camp on just who's fighting for those final spots. And then we mentioned Justin Sourdif making his season debut, fourth career NHL game for him. And to think that he didn't really get that opportunity due to the injury that he had, didn't really make his AHL season debut until November 9th this season. So falling a little bit behind based on his health, and then with the experience, getting a little older, and a guy with a lot of foot speed, great hands for him, has really played it well for himself, just scoring on the give and go to make it 2-0 at the time with that return feed from Boqvist after a hit behind the play on Anton Lundell. But just getting that goal for the Panthers, like you said, getting a power play goal, which a beautiful play by Sasha Barkov where Nashville committed so much on the strong side, where it just left the slot, the middle of the ice open for the Panthers there. Even getting a call back for that was created by Justin Sourdif. The entry was created by him, but the play overall created by Jesper Boqvist there right before Lundell's goal was taken off the board, which second straight game for him. But really, how the Panthers supported them, the puck, how they were able to eliminate the odd man rushes. The biggest rush that the Predators had was Philip Forsberg, where Nate Schmidt and Uvis Balinskis got back, and then Balinskis was able to clear the puck out of their end. Really, that was the biggest chance that Nashville got on as far as speed. And then Spencer Knight not facing a lot of shots for him. Spoke about how he feels more tired when he's not facing shots, and that makes sense. I think about if you were in a cubicle in corporate America, how if you're not really given that much really an assignment, you're there just bored and more likely to fall asleep versus if you're active and get a whole bunch of emails. So I feel like that's a pretty good comparison for Spencer Knight and his workload for him. But I just think overall for the Panthers and just their ability to take advantage of the lack of discipline that Nashville had. It's funny because you could have even called 2 penalties in one play during the first period where there was a boarding. We thought it was going to be called for boarding, but then it ended up being a trip right before on the half wall. So 5 power plays for the Panthers, just taking advantage of the lack of discipline for Nashville. And just you think about just how lost defensively they can look with especially like I mentioned, them committing too much to the strong side on that power play goal by Sam Bennett.
Yeah, I thought that first power play in particular looked pretty good. And what a nifty play from Sam Reinhart too, to drop that pass sort of behind his back with the swift little look to the left over the left shoulder back to Bennett. That's a tough play to make, to get your wrists around to make that pass at such a tight angle. That's a tough one, and that's an elite play. But I was glad that the Panthers, even though the power play didn't look great the whole time, I was glad that they got a bunch of opportunities, because it looks like, I mean, we don't know for sure, but obviously we're all expecting that we're going to see the Panthers without Tkachuk for the foreseeable future. With him likely missing some time, the power play is going to need a lot of opportunities to get accustomed to not having number 19 out there, because in a way he's sort of the quarterback of the power play. He just runs it from the goal line instead of from the point. So finding ways to be productive on the power play without him is going to be tough, and getting a bunch of opportunities early to do that gives them the best chance to sort of pick up the slack while he's out. So I was glad they got a lot of opportunities, even though they went 1 for 5. Like to see them capitalize maybe on one or two more, but I'm not mad about a 1 for 5 evening without Tkachuk. So there was definitely that. I thought Nashville was very undisciplined tonight. I thought Luke Schenn in particular was sort of running around all over the place and looking for fights and whatnot. And I get it. The frustration on the Nashville side has to be building. So injuries are piling up. They have been, without a doubt, the most disappointing team in the NHL this year after their hyped off season. And I don't know if you saw Luke Schenn's comments post game, but he said he's never been a part of a group like this that can't score a goal. You don't
shut out in the last game as well. So it's
the frustration is definitely building, and the Panthers are not a team you want to see when you're really frustrated, because they're likely going to cause you to cross the line. And the Panthers definitely got Nashville to do some really undisciplined things tonight. So that's sort of where the Panthers thrive. But yeah, with that said, you touched on Spencer Knight. He was rock solid. He was locked in, made some big saves. Even had a sequence where he lost a skate blade and was just kind of shuffling around and kept himself in position and was ready to make saves. So I thought he had another really solid game, and he's been really, really good lately. He's been fantastic for the last probably 8 to 10 games that he started. He's been good. So things are going in the right direction here.
Yeah, he's won 6 of his last 8 games. And here's the thing. This was career game number 80 for Spencer Knight, which means, what does that mean? That means he's no longer waivers exempt after this game. That's the 80 mark for when he signed his contract and his contract age. And to think that he went to the Players Assistance Program after he came in relief in Nashville in 2023. So this is a little bit of a full circle game for Spencer Knight, if you really truly think about it for him. So really, I'm really happy for his turnaround, just not only in hockey but in life, period, for him. And to think that also Nashville was not only frustrated with the amount of losses piled up, but just trying to throw the Panthers off their game with unfortunately, Roman Josi did not return to the third period after that boarding call from Sam Bennett. And it's just another one of those plays where Sam Bennett makes that upsets the opposition, where maybe a little reckless for him there. I mean, we saw that hit on Neighbors in that home game against the St. Louis Blues that he later responded to. And then later blamed that hit on Sam Reinhart after the Panthers froze the the Predators froze the puck there on the power play, and just trying to create a little bit of disruption for Sam Bennett, always willing to respond and answer the call, who he himself got a Gordie Howe hat trick with his goal, and then that assist to Mackie Samoskevich. So, hey, 3 key contributors for the Panthers here in this game for them, with Samoskevich, Justin Sourdif, and Spencer Knight all spent time in Charlotte. Not bad for a team that hasn't had a first-round pick since 2021 and won't have one until 2026. So that's so great to see. But we're going to transition to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss more about our 3 stars of the game and the moment when we thought the game was won. We're going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. And you realize that your business needed to hire someone yesterday? How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job seen on other sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs puts your post at the top of the page and help you reach the candidates faster. And now you can speed up the hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Segment number 2 here on this Wednesday, February 26th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday, here with Jacob Winans here, and off a Panthers 4-1 win over the Nashville Predators, now sweeping the season series, and 2 dominant performances. And before we get into our 3 stars, Jacob, it's funny because the shot on goal differential really did not tell the whole story for the Panthers, and just how they were able to just get the pucks in deep, disrupt everything in the neutral zone, and just get in on their forecheck. And like we said, Paul Maurice even said that although there was a lot of blocked shots for the Predators, he really didn't mind for the Panthers, and just how they were able to still disrupt things when it came to Nashville's breakouts.
Yeah, I think the shots on goal didn't really indicate how much Florida really dominated this one, but sometimes the Panthers don't dominate in the shot category when they're really dominating a game. And that's because so much of their game is not just based on volume of shots. It's based on clogging up the neutral zone, denying rush chances, quick outs, and puck possession. It's more about the zone time, the possession time, and the repeated grind and hard forecheck on the opposition's D. And at the end of the day, that's what wins the Panthers games. They could put up 45 shots a game and play a bad game. A lot of times we've seen the Panthers put up a ton of shots, and it's just not their best game because it's all perimeter based. It's all it's a lot of trading odd man rushes, and that's not their style. So the games I like the most are when the Panthers are playing a game where it's low shots on both sides. Because at the end of the day, I'm more confident in the Panthers getting the better of the opportunities that come up. And tonight was a perfect example of that. Nashville really just couldn't generate anything. The Panthers were suffocating defensively. And they definitely had a huge edge in shot attempts. Nashville did a really solid job of blocking shots. And Paul Maurice spoke about it. They're a really good shot blocking team. Despite their struggles in the standings, they do block shots well, and they're not terrible defensively. They just have a lot of injuries back there and are kind of filling holes as they go along. So I thought it wasn't thought it wasn't too bad as far as the shot disparity. I don't think that told the whole story, and I was happy with the quality of opportunities they got.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that really that's how the Panthers won the cup. Every single clincher that they played in was only giving up one goal. So that's just still looking back at everything when it comes to that. So 3 stars of the game. I'm gonna go here first. Third star, I'm gonna say Alexander Barkov, a 2-assist night for him. So that another multi-assist game for Alexander Barkov for him. As far as my third star, the top line once again set the tone. Even the fourth line was actually outstanding. All 4 lines were rolling. The only 0 shots on against that 5-on-5 for that line. Nosek was 77% in the faceoff dot. So that so all 4 lines were contributing for him. But Barkov getting the 2 assists. Number 2, Justin Sourdif, the GWG first career goal. And then, unfortunately, even though the goal was called back for goal interference, like we mentioned earlier, how he was able to just still use one hand to get the shot on net after Luke Shen closed the gap, and the Panthers still kept that play alive, got the partial change. And even though the goal was taken away, you love to see those little itty-bitty details that in Justin Sourdif's game on just how he's able to just keep plays alive for him, and spoke about year older and still wanting to contribute. And Paul Maurice even said that he's happy for the program. Keywords from Paul Maurice. Number 1, got to go with Sam Bennett. Gordie Howe hat trick. Goal on the power play, ended with a bang with a turnover in the corner to feed to Mackie Samoskevich, and then brought it backhand to get it to Mackie to get extended to 4-1 for that. And it just put a nice cherry on top for this game. So your 3 stars, Jacob.
Yeah, so I'm going to start mine with an honorable mention. I'm going to give my honorable mention to Niko Mikkola tonight. If not for some really good performances from the forwards, I think we'd be talking a lot more about him tonight. But he played a beautiful defensive game, and it was peak Mikkola tonight. I think that's exactly what you're looking for from Big Nico. I thought he played a fantastic game. Was physical, cleared pucks, did a good job getting back when Nashville had chances on the rush, and he was there to snuff them out. I thought he was fantastic. My third star is going to go to the captain. It's going to Barkov. I thought he was quietly dominant. Not a ton of shots, not a ton of chances offensively for himself, but it was the playmaking was there, the defense was there as always, driving the play and leading by example. And there was a quote from Paul Maurice post game that really stood out to me about Barkov, and he was asked a question about Sourdif's goal being a 200-foot goal, and if he liked that Sourdif scored by starting it with defense, and he immediately went to Barkov in his answer, saying that they're so fortunate that Barkov is the captain of this team, and he's a Selke player, and he doesn't cheat the system, he doesn't blow the zone, he doesn't prioritize his own offense. He plays 200 feet and he plays defense hard. And if your captain and a Stanley Cup champion and a Selke winner is doing that, the young guys who come in are more inclined to do that. They're not going to take plays off when they're just a couple games into their career. So it's leading by example. And you can see that influence in the young guys' game. Even Mackie's starting to come along defensively and physically. And I think Barkov's a huge reason for that. So he's my third star. My second star is going to be Sam Bennett. Gordie Howe hat trick doesn't happen too often in today's game, but if there's a guy who's good for a Gordie Howe hat trick in a season, it's going to be number 9. He's the hit on Josi, no intent there. He's just forechecking really hard and really fast, and unfortunate because there's never been any bad blood with Roman Josi. He's a guy that is well liked around the league, and I hope he's okay. But I
can't wait to see him in the Olympics. Can't wait.
Oh yeah, definitely. But Bennett just high impact game and just sort of left his fingerprints all over this one in a way that only he can. So he's my second star. My first star is Justin Sourdif. Got to give it to the rookie, his season debut, his first NHL goal, and put in a really tough spot. It's not like he came into this game and was asked to play 5 minutes on the fourth line and buried down there, not playing in big situations. He's filling in for Eetu, who was already expected to have a bigger role with Tkachuk out. So it's a situation where they're really thin on the wings right now. And he gets called up, thrown into the game, and he made his mark. He played a great game, scored the goal, but showed a lot more confidence offensively than we saw from him in his first few games with the Panthers. His speed is there, the physicality is there. He looks a little bit stronger than he did his first go around. I saw there was one particular play where he was the last forward out of the zone offensively and ends up back checking all the way back to the defensive zone, all the way to the boards, and gets a steal and turns the puck the other way. And I thought that was just perfect effort and has to open the eyes of the coaching staff. He's a guy who's high effort all the time. And if you're not familiar with his game in Charlotte, he's nearly a point per game player. I think in Charlotte, he's got 11 goals, 11 assists. So balanced offense and nearly at a point per game. And he's also got some bite to his game too. He had a suspension earlier this year. Got into a huge fight with Hartford, the Wolfpack. That's the Rangers minor league team. So he's got some bite to his game. He's got some physicality. He's got some nastiness. He's going to be a good Panther.
No doubt. In just under 10 minutes, 2 shots on goal. Also, got to give credit to Jesper Boqvist for playing both on power play 2 and on the PK. So playing in all situations. And also Nico Mikkola, 15 minutes of time of playing at 5-on-5 and only allowed 1 shot on goal while he was on the ice. So
Crazy.
Multiple Panthers just getting and contributing to the club on this 4-1 win. So a moment where you thought the game was won. I'm gonna go with Gustav Forsling's goal. Aaron Ekblad's shot takes a huge bounce off the boards. Gustav with the pinch, and then UC Saros doesn't look like he saw that one coming, and then it beats him on the short side past the blocker. So that was basically at a time where, even though the Predators did score on one of the rare second, well, in this case, third chances for them, where Spencer just got the stick up in the pads, I never thought the Panthers lost control of the game for them. One of the rare times where they got multiple hacks there. So the Gustav Forsling's goal put the game away. So how about you?
Yeah, I'm tempted to say Sourdif's goal because Nashville has had such a hard time scoring lately, and the Panthers have been so good defensively. So I'm really torn, but I do think there was just a small stretch of a couple minutes where Nashville really had momentum. They had cut the deficit to 1, and they were starting to build a little bit of something. So I felt like the game might still be in the balance at that point. Forsling's goal so pretty much puts it away, but the moment that I knew the game was won was Spencer Knight loses a skate blade and is just kind of hobbling around out there, and it looks like Nashville might have a really good chance to score on the Panthers when we got a goalie on one leg, but the Panthers got out of it. They get a big clear. I can't remember exactly who it was. I want to say it was Nosek, but I'm not sure. When Spencer was without
it was Balinskis, I believe.
Yeah, it might have been Balinskis, yeah. And I thought the Panthers getting out of that situation when they were very vulnerable, I thought that was the best chance Nashville was going to have. They weren't going to get another one, so that was the moment I knew the game was won.
Yeah, so for the Panthers, just an overall up and down the ice, lots of contributors for this one, and it leads to a complete game and a win. And now the Panthers shift their focus to a 5-game homestand with the trade deadline coming up for them. But although we don't have any new news on Matthew Tkachuk on his timeline, he is going to be joining another show that is going to be airing tomorrow. What is that show? We are going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Segment 3 here on this Wednesday, February 26th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, here with Jacob Winans on another edition of Winans Wednesday. So awesome to see Matthew Tkachuk after he joined the Tonight Show. Something I did not include in that conversation when discussing it this morning was the fact that he mentioned Big Walt, Keith Tkachuk, seeing him cry for the first time, and just to see how much his son has definitely grown in just overall as a person and just as a hockey player, just getting that accomplishment. And then just the continued momentum from Four Nations where the ratings for the ABC Saturday and TNT our friend over at Announcers NHL said that some of the games compared to last year were up 20%. So it just goes to show how big of a boost Four Nations has created. And the fact that the NHL and NHL players like Matthew Tkachuk, which you could argue that he's kind of him and Brady are the faces of USA hockey. I mean, you don't have Ryan Miller in between the pipes anymore. Patrick Kane's on the back nine of his career. And now another show that Matthew Tkachuk is joining along with his brother Brady, bringing him this time around. And I'm sure, and there is going to be they're going to be joining a set of brothers, the Kelsey brothers, Travis and Jason Kelsey, two Super Bowl champions for them, and bringing in a Stanley Cup champion together on their podcast, New Heights. And I cannot wait to listen to that tomorrow. And just how awesome is it to see these one set of brothers inviting another after building off just the momentum from Four Nations. And to think USA didn't even win it, but to think that the marketing opportunities for the NHL and to bring these two brothers, the Bash brothers, got to watch the Mighty Ducks sometime this week again. So, but
oh yeah,
how great is that?
Yeah, it's awesome because I think, well, it's kind of a mixed bag because with Tkachuk right now, I feel like there's so many people, and it's not Panthers fans, it's outside fans that are taking this as an opportunity to hate on him with his injury and the fact that he's doing media while he's hurt and and just all these narratives that you put out there. But I promise you, this is not an issue within the Panthers organization or at all. This is growing the game, and I just find it funny how people want to talk all the time about how hockey doesn't get enough attention. Hockey players are boring. They don't have personalities. They're not marketable. But as soon as a guy is marketable, has a personality, is made for TV, is the kind of guy that people want to watch and listen to, then everyone's like, oh no, not like that. We don't like. And I'm just like, you can't have it both ways. So I love that Tkachuk is sort of unfazed by that and is just being himself. Because what you're seeing now, what we're seeing with the national media attention and the podcast appearances, I forget the show name is, The Late Show, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. It's the kind of stuff that hockey players traditionally aren't a part of. And Matthew Tkachuk being a part of it, we're seeing everyone now getting to experience what we in South Florida have already experienced with Matthew Tkachuk. He's not changing anything about himself or the way he goes about his personality or who he is. So it's cool seeing him get that national attention that we've experienced for the past couple of years locally. He's been truly authentic. So I think that's a great part of it. But it's cool seeing them have this little crossover with the Kelsey brothers. The pressure is going to be on Brady because he's the only one in that group of four who hasn't won a championship himself. So I'm sure he's got that in the back of his head. But with that said, I think it's going to surprise some people. The Kelseys are actually big hockey fans from what we know, and I think they're surprisingly knowledgeable on the sport, which is really cool. And I think it's a good opportunity to grow the game. And we've had plenty of superstars from Canada, plenty of marketable guys from Canada over the years, but having a couple of guys who have great personalities, play a game in a way that's fun to watch, and just good positive role models as well. I think that's good for the game here in the U.S.
Yeah, and it's funny because you stole a point that I was going to make about how it's authentic from the guys inviting the Matthew Tkachuk on the Tonight Show and the Kelsey brothers inviting the brothers, because we've seen Jimmy Fallon has been to quite a few Rangers games in the past. So he's a big hockey fan himself. And also There's even a segment that went viral, I believe it was 2-3 months ago, and what's the best trophy in sports? And Jason Kelsey spoke about the Stanley Cup, how it's not replicated. You don't keep it. Talked about the tradition of hockey and what he likes about it. I mean, I also personally like the Stanley Cup as well. The traditions on the trophy presentation, on the fact that the captain also is the first one to touch the cup instead of the owner. But that's another discussion for another day. But also just the overall, just the when it comes to the team over me aspect, when it comes to just how a lot of people like to discuss, and I get this is some people might see this out of the ordinary. I can understand that for people trying to show their personality. I think this is just so great and just continuing to build off the momentum. But also, Travis Kelsey and Matthew Tkachuk have also crossed paths before. They over the summer they were part of a celebrity golf tournament in Lake Tahoe, and there was a video going around from Bleacher Report on them playing beer pong and also just doing some kind of conga line around whatever house they were in. You see people like Blake Griffin, Tony Romo was a big part of that as well. So it's just the fact that it's a way of bringing each other up in a situation like this, in a sport that's just continuing to grow.
Yeah, and you said something really important there, and you said that people might see it as out of the ordinary, and I think that's exactly what's needed here. I think we're at a point now in the growth of the game where ordinary is not really what you're going for anymore. The growth of hockey has been stagnant in some areas. The growth of hockey has struggled to reach some areas, and I think any way that it can become mainstream is positive for the growth of the game, especially when the reason why there's so much popularity is because it was a good, hard fought couple of games between the U.S. and Canada and best on best hockey. There's something negative about that. People might be drawn in by the fights, or they might be drawn in by the rivalry, and they might be drawn in by the comments that we spoke about this on a podcast. The comments that Brandon Hagel made about the group chat and the trash talk, whatever it is that draws them in. At the end of the day, they sat down and watched a hockey game beginning to end. Maybe you learned something, and maybe there's people out there that are now hockey fans, and maybe there's people out there that watched a hockey game and decided, hey, I want to play that. That looks really fun. That looks really cool. I'd like to play for Team USA one day, or I'd like to play in a rivalry game against Canada. And that's how you grow the game. So if it took the Tkachuks and JT Miller having a group chat and starting a couple of fights at the beginning of the game to get eyes on it, sure, obviously they're not thinking about that when they do it, but whatever draws the eyes and gets the attention on this great game, especially in a positive way, when it's good, hard competition, I can't ever be mad about that. Even if he wasn't a Panther, I'd be happy about it.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait to listen to the episode. I'll definitely be writing some notes after that, just to see what they say, and just maybe a little bit of trash talking. How about that? A little bit of trash talking between brothers. That's what brothers are for in this case.
Oh yeah.
So can't wait to hear what that conversation. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Yep, you can follow me on X at Jacob Winans 8, and we finally got a homestand coming up, so I will definitely see some of you guys at the arena.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, and see you next week.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steve Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.